How to configure initialization parameters? How to configure? How to configure initialization parameters? What are the tags required? Init param, param name, and param value tags. Okay. Init param, param name, and param value tags. Already we configured yesterday. Say initialization parameters are used to initialize the solid. Okay. Initialization parameters are specific to solid. To which solid, if you write, that solid only can access. Yesterday we configured. 1 minute. Okay, I didn't save this one. Okay, I didn't save this one. Where we have to configure? After solid class. Here you have to configure. Before solid close. After solid class, before solid close, we have to configure. Say init param, param name, and param value. Here I given 4 parameters I given yesterday. Say 4 parameters. Here driver oracle.jdbc.driver. Oracle driver. Param name URL jdbc oracle tin at localhost 1521 xc. Here username system. Here password manager. Okay. These all initialization parameters. See, I configured after solid class, login solid. So these parameters are specific to login solid only. These parameters are specific to login solid only. Okay. Now, these parameters are specific to login solid only. Now, how to retrieve, how to use, I'll show you now. Yesterday written this code, no? Next. Next node. To retrieve initialization parameters, we use the following method. We use the following method of jakarta.solid config interface in a solid. To retrieve initialization parameters, we use the following method of jakarta.solid config interface in a solid. To retrieve initialization parameters, we use the following method of jakarta.solid config interface in a solid. Jakarta dot solid config. Now see, this method we use. Note down. The following method is to retrieve initialization parameters. We use the following method of Jakarta.solid.solid config interface in a solid. This is a method. Get init parameter. Here parameter name you have to pass. Here parameter value comes. Here name you have to pass. Here you will get a value. Name of the initialization parameter. Here value of the initialization parameter. Name of the initialization parameter, value of the initialization parameter. Name of the initialization parameter, value of the initialization parameter. Name if you pass, value comes. So the driver if you pass, driver comes, URL if you pass, URL comes, like that. Is it over? Now we have to retrieve. We have to retrieve this parameter. Okay. Now to which solid we configured initialization parameters? Which solid? Login solid. In the login solid program, we have tried. In login solid. In login solid, here class dot for name. I'll remove this driver. Okay. I'll remove JDBC, this URL, username, password. These all I'll remove. Okay. These all I'll remove. These all I removed. How to retrieve initialization parameters? Just now I given. What is the method name? Get init parameter. The method in which interface? Solid config. Already we have solid config now here. With this config, can I call? Yes. What we have write? String s1 equal to config dot get init parameter. Parameter name driver. Okay. Parameter name driver. Next string s2 equal to config dot get init parameter. Parameter name is URL. Next string s3 equal to config dot get init parameter. Parameter name username. Next string s4 equal to config dot get init parameter password. Okay. Now here driver stored in S1, URL stored in S2. Here like this class dot for name. What we are right now? S1. Get connection S2, S3, S4. Over. Now this program connected to Oracle database. If you want to change the database, which program you have to modify, web.xml or login solid? Web.xml you have to modify. Then Solid no need to modify. That is the benefit. Now this Solid program connected to which database? You cannot give answer seeing this. Seeing XML you can give answer. Because here I didn't write driver URL user house, just names of these parameters. But this program connected to which database? You can see XML file. You have to see XML file, then only you can give answer. Now this program is database independent program. This program is database independent program. Any database. If you want to change the database, you have to change the parameters here. Okay. This program is common to all databases now. This is database independent program. Now I'll run this program. Just see. Right click. Run on server. Save. Save. Here. Homepage.html. Homepage.html. If I click on login, login.html, username AAA, password AAA already exist. If I click on submit button, logins already executed. See, welcome AAA. It's working now. Back. Here password is wrong. See, invalid username password. It is working now. So now this program I connected to Oracle database, but configuration I given here. If you want to change the database, you need to change XML file. Solid program, no need to change. Okay. Now what you do is example. Just login solid.java. Complete program, no need to write. Only init method write it. Remaining same. Okay. Write this one. Example login solid.java. That program only init method part I'll give. First you write this one. Example login solid.java. Example login solid.java. Now this program only init method part write it. No need to write complete. Only init method write it. Only this part. Only this part write it. Remaining code is same. No change. So solid config reference. Config is the reference of solid config. Config dot get init parameter driver. Driver comes. URL. URL comes. Username. Username comes. Password. Password comes. Here driver loaded. Connection established. Now dynamically data comes from web.xml. This is about initialization parameters. Now these parameters only for login solid. If you want to use for registration solid, one more time you have to configure. One more time you have to configure. Okay. Is it completed? Say whatever I configured, the initialization parameters, whatever I configured in XML, I configured only for login solid. If you want to configure for registration solid, that is also once again you have to write. Okay. Initialization parameters are specific to solid. Specific to solid. Okay. Is it completed? Say here in web.xml, I configured after solid class I written. This solid class is login solid. For login solid only you can access. Suppose you required for registration solid. After this line, here also you have to configure. So whatever we configured, those parameters only for login solid. Suppose in a program, 10 in application, 10 solids are there. Assume 10 solids are there. 10 solids required. How many times you have to configure? 10 times you have to configure. Instead of configuring 10 times, we have one more way, context parameters. Note on. Next heading, context parameters. Next heading, context parameters. Next heading, context parameters. Context parameters are common to all. Context parameters are used to initialize solid. Context parameters are used to initialize solid. So context parameters also same purpose. But context parameters are common to all solids in a web application or .war file. Context parameters are common to all solids in a web application. Context parameters are common to all solids in a web application. Nothing but .war file. Context parameters are common to all solids in a web application. .war file. Suppose 10 solids are there. One time you can configure, 10 times you can use. One time only you can configure, 10 times you can use. Next. To configure context parameters, we use context param comma param name and param value tags in web.xml. To configure context parameters, we use context param, param name, and param value tags in web.xml. To configure context parameters, we use context param, comma param name, and param value tags in web.xml. Say, if you want to configure context parameters, we use these three tags in web.xml. Okay. See, only one tag different. Init param place, context param. Remaining param name, param value same. But where we have to configure, that is important. Say, example. Example. Here. Here, what I'll do is, I'll remove the init parameters. I'll remove these 4 init parameters. I'll remove. Okay, I removed. Here, after web app only, we have to configure. Here, you are getting error. Reason, init param you cannot configure here. Context param you can configure. Context. Like this. So here context parameter required. Now these parameters are common to all solids in a web application. Over. Now these context parameters common to all solids in a web application. See, here after web app only you have to write. After web app. After web app context parameters you have to write. After that, again normal solid. After that, dash dash, solid close, solid mapping close. Those all remaining common. Web app close. Okay. Where we have to configure is important. After web app you have to configure. Before solid you have to configure. Okay. Write this one. After web app you have to configure. Before solid you have to configure. Write this complete example. So after web app, before solid. After web app, before solid. So init param place context param, but where we have to configure before solid, after web app. Where we have to configure is important. Other location, if you configure, error comes. So after web app, context param, again context param, context param, context param, n number of. After that, remaining normal. Solid, solid mapping, those are common. Solid, solid name, solid class, these are common. Is it completed? See how to retrieve these parameters in solid. That is, I'll show you. Is it completed all? Not completed. See, to retrieve same here. To retrieve context parameters, here also one method is there. Next, note on. To retrieve context parameters, we use the following method of solid context interface in a solid. Method name same, interface different. To retrieve context parameters, we use the following method of jakarta.solid.solid context interface in a solid. Write this one. To retrieve context parameters, we use the following method of jakarta.solid.solid context interface in a solid. Method name same. Here, interface name different. Previously solid config, now solid context. Previously solid config, now solid context. Now, to get solid context, use the following method of jakarta.solid.solid config interface. Again, it is related to config. To get solid context, use the following method of jakarta.solid.solid config interface. Public abstract solid context get solid context. Note on. To get solid context, use the following method of jakarta.solid.solid config interface. So first of all, you have to call get solid context. You will get a context. With that, you have to call get init parameter. Then init parameter comes. Okay. How to write? See. Example. In login solid also, registration solid also, same code. Example login solid.java. Login solid.java also, re solid.java also, same code you have to write. I'll show you both the programs. I'll change. For retrieving context parameters, what is the method name? Get init parameter. This method in which interface? Solid context interface. For getting solid context interface, which method? This method in which interface? So with a solid config, this method you have to call. You'll get a context. With this method you have to call. Then you'll get a parameter. Okay. See. In login solid.java. Here, first of all, context required. What do you write? What do you write? Solid context. Something sc equal to config dot get solid context. Okay. Because just now I given this method in which interface? Solid config interface. With the config reference, this method you have to call. You'll get a context. With this context, this method you have to call. So here, config reference dot get solid context. We got a context. With this config, this method you have to call. In the place of config, what we have to write? Sc. Over. In the place of config, we have to write sc. Over. Now, this is context parameters. Suppose registration solid also I want to modify. You can. Now, these parameters are common to all solids. You can access in registration solid also. Here, I'll remove this driver URL user password. What we have tried? Give me answer. Solid context sc equal to config dot get solid context. After getting string s1 equal to sc dot get init parameter name driver. Next string s2 equal to sc dot get init parameter URL. Next string s3 equal to sc dot get init parameter username. Next string s4 equal to sc dot get init parameter password. After this, class dot for name s1, get connection s2, s3, s4. Over. Now you observe. I'll run this program. First, SQL prompt I'll open. How many records are there? See. Select star from student U info. Now up to triple F. Okay, 6 records are there. I'll run this program. See, run on server. Save. Here homepage.html. Homepage.html. See, registration triple G. Submit. See, you have registered successfully. Here. See, triple G inserted. Next, login. Any username, existed username. Welcome. Back. Password is wrong. Invalid username, password. So, here, how many times I configured? One time. How many times I used it? Two times. These are context parameter concept. Now, complete program, no need to write. Just init method only write it. Example, write this one. So one line different here. Solid context sc equal to config dot get solid context. After that, sc dot you have to call. Method name get init parameter only, because this is also for initialization. That is also initialization. This is also initialization. So with config, solid context comes. With that context, we are calling parameters. Get init parameter. Parameters comes. With that connection initialized. Is it over? Now I'll give notes about initialization parameters, context parameters, solid config, solid context. These all I'll give. Note on initialization parameters versus context parameters. Initialization parameters versus context parameters. Initialization parameters versus context parameters. Note on one side initialization parameters. One more side context parameters. Initialization parameters versus context parameters. What is the purpose of initialization parameters? To initialize the solid. Context parameter purpose? Same. That is same. Okay. Note on. Initialization parameters are used to initialize the solid. Context parameters are also used to initialize the solid. Initialization parameters are used to initialize the solid. Context parameters are also used to initialize the solid. Initialization parameters are used to initialize the solid. Context parameters are also used to initialize the solid. Initialization parameter, context parameter, same purpose. Now, are these specific to solid or common to all solids? Specific to solid. No, note on. Initialization parameters are specific to solid. Initialization parameters are specific to solid. Context parameters are common to all solids. In a web application. So that particular application only, but other WAR file separate you have to configure context parameter also. Initialization parameters are specific to solid. Context parameters are common to all solids in a web application. To configure initialization parameters, we use init param, comma, param name and param value tags in web.xml. To configure context parameters, we use context param, comma, param name and param value tags in web.xml. To configure initialization parameters, we use init param, param name and param value tags in web.xml. To configure context parameters, we use context param, param name and param value tags in web.xml. To retrieve initialization parameters from web.xml to retrieve initialization parameters from web.xml. We use get init parameter method of solid config interface. To retrieve context parameters from web.xml, we use get init parameter method of solid context interface. To retrieve initialization parameters from web.xml, we use getInit parameter method of solid config interface. To retrieve context parameters from web.xml, we use getInit parameter method of solid context interface. Here, method name same, interface is different. So this is this is common points and difference point. That's what verses I given. Is it over? Next. Solid config versus solid context. Solid config versus solid context. One side, solid config. One more side, solid context. Solid config versus solid context. Solid config versus solid context. You already studied when solid config is created by web container. When solid config is created by web container. See, majority people not giving answer, you observe. When solid config is created by web container. Whenever init method is called. When init method is called by web container, whenever fast request comes to a solid. Okay. When solid context is created by web container, whenever web application is deployed on server. Note solid config is created by web container whenever init method is called. Solid config is created by web container whenever init method is called. Solid context is created by web container whenever web application is deployed on server. Solid config is created by web container whenever init method is called. Solid context is created by web container whenever web application is deployed on server. Solid config is created by web container whenever init method is called. Solid context is created by web container whenever web application is deployed on server. See, it is one interface. It is one interface. This interface implements in one class. That class is a part of web container software only. That object created, that memory, nothing but. But here, solid config is interface. But in that interface, nothing will be there. Abstract methods will be there. Those all implemented in subclass. Subclass object created. That object contain initialization parameters. This object contains context parameters. Like that. That memory allocated, that memory created. Here, while deploying only created. It is whenever first request comes created. Okay. Now, solid config is created by web container whenever init method is called. Solid context is created by web container whenever web application is deployed on server. Suppose one war file is there, 10 solids are there. How many configs created? How many contexts created? One web application having 10 solids. How many config? How many contexts? 10 config, 1 context. Write it. Web container creates solid config 1 per solid. 1 per solid. Web container creates solid context 1 per web application. Solid context web container creates solid config 1 per solid. For every solid, 1. Web container creates solid context 1 per web application. Next, solid context is used to retrieve. Solid context is used to retrieve initialization parameters. Config. Solid config is used to retrieve initialization parameters from web.xml. Solid context is used to retrieve context parameters from web.xml. Solid context is used to retrieve initialization parameters from web.xml. Solid context is used to retrieve context parameters from web.xml. See, initialization parameters, context parameters, and solid config, solid context you have seen. Already you studied the object creation order by web container. The object creation order by web container is studied, no? First, what is created? For Java questions, you are not giving answer. Advanced Java questions also, you are not giving answers. You observe. Only few people giving answers. Very few. These all already I taught, no? 2-3 times I asked also. Core Java questions, anyhow, you are not giving answer. At least advanced Java questions, again, you answer, no? Recently you studied, no? First, what is created? Solid context. Next, user defined solid. User defined solid. Next, solid config. Next, solid request, solid response. Solid request and solid response. Okay. See, this context, when it is created, whenever web application is deployed on server. User defined solid object, whenever first request comes to a solid. Solid config, whenever init method is called. Solid request and solid response, whenever service method is called. Service method called for every request. Init method called whenever first request comes. So these all you studied now. Context, we use it for context parameters. User defined solid to call lifecycle methods. Solid config for initialization parameters. Solid request for request parameters. Solid response to create a stream. Okay, print writer, solid output stream. That purpose, solid response we created. So these all concepts over. Okay. See, here in a program, starting basic programs you studied, basic solids. Basic solids also, some 8 solid programs you studied. These 8 programs. Okay, like first solid, second solid, table solid, time solid, sample solid, MIME type solid, first solid is counter solid. These are solids you studied. Okay. After this login program you studied. In this login program here, you observe these all you have to take care. Here, first login dot. First we are sending request to homepage.html. Homepage.html. Now, here, when you this is hyperlink created. When you click on this hyperlink, login.html. When you click on registration hyperlink, reg.html. Now, whenever you click on this hyperlink, login.html executed. Whenever you click on registration, reg.html executed. Here, login.html, reg.html is there. Suppose here you written reg.html, but here file name you given registration.html. Will it work? That is also you have to check. Few people what they are doing, this is also they are doing mistakes. Not working means you have to take care, no, these all. It is very simple, no? Say here login hyperlink, if you click, login.html open. Registration hyperlink, if you click, reg.html open. But file name should be reg.html only, because we written here reg.html. There also reg.html must match. Here reg.html, there register.html. Then how it will work? It doesn't work. Okay. Now, and also after that, okay, registration reg.html. Here, when you click on submit button, here reg, that is executed, no? Now here when you click on submit button, here reg executed. Reg, but a URL pattern, what is reg? URL pattern of registration solid. Okay, that is already configured in XML file. that already configured in XML file. Here, you observe. Here reg. Okay, here reg already configured, and here reg must match, no? That reg, this reg must match. If not matched, again error comes. Suppose here reg, there register. Error comes, no? That is also you have to take care. Resource not found. HTTP 404 not found, error comes. But why error means? That is you have to check. That is your mistake only, no? Now, here, what is F name? What is L name? What is U name? What is P word? These are called request parameter names. Here registration Solid program. Here already what we written here in a do post. Here F name, L name, U name, P word. These also must match, no? Suppose there P word you given. Okay, here password you given. Will it work? No. Then blank page comes in a browser window. Error will not appear. Error will not appear. Error will displayed in server console. Here console will be there, no? Here error appears. That is they won't observe. Blank page coming, blank page coming. How can I give answer? I cannot give answer, no? Now it is showing blank page, it is showing blank page, they are sending mail. How can I give answer? That error will be displayed here. That is your mistake only. You are getting blank page means your mistake only. Okay. Say at least program screenshot you have to check. Here reg.html. Here F name is there, L name is there, U name is there, P word is there. These 4 parameters here also must match. If not matched, you will get a blank page. Error will not appear. Blank page appears. That is you have to take care, no? And also here in this line error comes. Connection reference is null pointer exception. This dot connection is null pointer exception. It appears. Actually, this connection code we written here. The connection code we written here. Suppose this connection I declared here. I'm accessing here also. I'm accessing here also. I'm accessing here also. Suppose what you written is here also again connection you written. Then what it comes? Null pointer exception comes. Here one instance variable you written. Here one local variable you written. Now which is initialized? Local variable initialized or instance variable initialized? Local variable connection over, connection established. But this local variable connection can be accessed here. Now this is instance variable. Instance variable null only will be there, no? That is also they won't observe. Then and one more reason. Suppose this is connection they didn't write. Okay, like this only written. But the driver class is available in OJDBC 6_G 8_G, no? That is you have to attach, no? That is they won't attach. Then also null pointer exception. Then what you have to do? Either right click, build path, configure build path. Here class path. Here you can add jar file. Otherwise, one more way. This jar file you copy into Tomcat lib folder. This PC, C drive, program files, Apache Software Foundation, Tomcat lib. Here you copy. Otherwise, the jar file contains driver. Driver is not there. Class not found exception. But driver is there. Connection not established. This is also same error comes. But that is also you have to observe. I already placed it in contact Tomcat lib, already attached class path, but still same error coming. Still same error coming means instance variable, class local variable, same name if you write also same error comes. Because local variable initialized, instance variable not initialized, then definitely null will be there. Null pointer exception comes. Now, suppose here while writing driver class name Oracle driver, O capital, D capital, no? Sub O small letter, D capital written. Class not found exception comes no. Already attached jar file, but still class not found exception. Reason spelling mistake, capital letter mistake, small letter mistake. That is also same error. Oracle driver O capital D capital, that class is there, but Oracle driver small letters class is not there. Then error comes. And some more people oracle.jdbc.driver O capital they'll write. That is package no. Package capital letter package is there. Then also same error comes. This type of errors they are sending. These all you can solve. It is possible if you concentrate. But just error appears, they'll take a screenshot, they'll attach to mail. This is people are doing. At least you have to solve, no? You have to try. Self-learning skills also required. Now, here, if any error comes, you'll go to faculty, you'll go to lab faculty. But after joining the company, you'll go to team member, team leader. You have to solve. Self-learning skills also required. Self-learning skills also required. At least 5-6 times you have to try. Still you are not getting. Then go to faculty or lab faculty. But one time also they won't observe. At least what are the mistakes happened? They won't observe. Only error comes, no? They'll send. That's it. Try to solve. That knowledge is also required. But already programs I'm showing. If you concentrate, these all you'll understand. These all you'll understand. That's what listening is important. If you listen properly, you can do it. If you don't listen, only if you write notes also, it is not enough. Because every point you cannot write. Every point you cannot write. Suppose here, login solid. In login solid, here. Here uname keyword. These two database field names, no? Suppose select a star from uinfo where uname equal to question mark and keyword equal to question mark. But here unpw will be there. Then how it works? There uname given, here un given. Then how it works? Database field name, this field name must match. HTML field name and a Sowlet field name must match. Sowlet field name, database field name must match. These all you have to take care, no? Suppose here suppose here uname okay, here keyword okay. This is HTML must match, but here database field name must match here. Here whatever you write, there you have to write same in table. But these all you have to take care. While writing a program only, if you write in a proper way, error will not come. Okay, if error comes, try to solve, try to think what is a mistake happened, line by line you check it. Try to solve. Self-learning skills also important for your career. Self-learning skills also important. After joining in the company, yourself you have to solve. That knowledge is also required. Okay. Now, here in a web.xml. In a web.xml, if the Sowlet is in a package name compulsory. Suppose you didn't select generate XML file. XML not generated. Then by default annotation generated. That is sometimes Eclipse problem also. That is automatically settings will be there. With setting by default annotation generated. Then you are writing XML. While writing XML, what you have to do? If package name also you have to write here. Package name they won't write. Only login Sowlet they'll write. Then it doesn't work. That package in a Sowlet in a package is there. Package is there, package you have to write. Package is not there, same error comes. Resource not found, 404 error comes. Then also error. These also you have to take care. And some more people what they'll do? XML they'll write, annotation they'll write. Server failed to start, error comes. Server will not start. With one problem only, your application will not work. Here XML, this is configured URL pattern. Again, Annotation also they'll write. XML configuration, annotation configuration. Two configuration if you write. It doesn't, so server will not start. Fail to start error comes. That is also you have to observe. These all you have to take care. While listening class, if you listen with more concentration, yourself also you can solve. It is possible. Okay. That's what highest priority listening. If you listen properly, you can write, because each and every word you cannot write in notes. Okay. It is not possible to write each and every word. That is the reason listening is highest priority. Now, these all errors, try to solve. Still, if you are unable to solve, then mail to my mail ID. I'll give a reply. But first 1-2 times you try to solve. At least 2-3 times you try. What are the mistakes happened? You check it out. Self-learning skills also required. Okay. Next. Solid forwarding. Note. Next concept. Solid forwarding. Now see here one more error. Now what is error? See. HTTP method get is not supported by this URL. When it comes, you are sending get type request. You return post method. Then this error comes. Suppose you return, you are sending post type request. There you return do get. Then how it works? That error comes. HTTP method get is not supported by this URL, error comes. Method request type is get, program you return do post. Already I taught, no? Get method, do get method can handle only get type requests. Do post method can handle only post type requests. That is, that type error also. Okay. And also here, some more people what they'll do, this first in Eclipse, this is first you have to configure, no, server. Here, first the server you have to configure or not. First you have to configure server, but they won't configure server. Directly they'll write solid program. Directly solid program, if you write, what will happen? Every line error only. Every line. Like import statement onwards, every line error shows. That is also problem. Otherwise, then what you do here in application, right click, build path, configure build path, add jar file, add select the class path, add external jar, Solid library you have to attach. Solid library. Apache Software Foundation, Tomcat 10, lib. Solid-api.jar. This is you have to attach. So by mistake, first server not configured. Server is not configured, Solid library is not available. Then every line error comes. All errors only. Then you cannot run Solid program. See, Solid program not working means this type of errors. See, Solid program not working. It doesn't work. Because server configuration is not there. Without configuring server, dynamic web project selected directly. Solid library not available in Eclipse. Solid library available in Tomcat server. That jar file you have to attach. This jar file you have to attach. Otherwise, if any mistakes happen, change the workspace. Nothing will happen. One more workspace you take. All settings automatically comes, no? Suppose some problem occurred, you are unable to solve. Just create new workspace. One more workspace you can create, no, n number of you can create. That workspace only no need to use, no. Then all settings, new settings comes. Then it is more better. Some problem occurred, you are unable to solve. Change the workspace. While opening Eclipse only, create new workspace. So while opening only, new workspace you create. Then again it will be created new settings all. Here, now I created 4 PM batch desktop folder. Create one more. Browse, select any other. Select any other folder. Otherwise, new create one more folder. Then select the new workspace. All new settings comes. If any problem occurred. Like that also you can do, no? Suppose some Eclipse settings are missed. You are unable to solve. In that situation, use that new workspace you can attach. Got it? These all you try to solve. Still you are unable to solve. Mail to my mail ID. Okay. Solid forwarding. Note down. Forwarding request and response of one solid to another solid. Forwarding request and response of one solid to another solid is called as solid forwarding. Forwarding request and response of one solid to another solid is called as solid forwarding. Forwarding request and response of one solid to another solid is called as solid forwarding. See, concept name is solid forwarding, but solid is not forwarded. Request response only forwarded. Okay. Request response nothing but memory. So memory you can transfer one solid to another solid. Forwarding request and response of one solid to another solid is called as solid forwarding. See, for example, it is one solid. It is one more solid. It is one more solid. First solid, second solid, third solid. Okay. These all solids in server. Now from client system, web client, in a browser window, I'll type URL of first solid. Here I'll type here http:// localhost : 8082. Suppose application name forward, URL pattern first. Then what will happen? My request password to first solid. It is HTTP request. It is HTTP request. Then first solid code executed. First solid code executed. After executing, it is forwarded to second solid. Second solid code executed. It is forwarded to third solid. Third solid code executed. After this, response comes from third solid. So third solid will send the response. It is HTTP response. This concept is called solid forwarding. Note down. I am sending request to first solid. First solid will forward to second solid. Second solid will forward to third solid. All solids executed. Third solid will send the response. Last solid send the response. So forwarding request and response of one solid to another solid is called as solid forwarding. So first solid will forward the request and response to second solid. Second solid will forward the request and response to third solid. Now, from client system to which solid we are sending request? First solid. Response coming from which solid? Third solid. Total how many solids executed? 3 solid. That information browser doesn't know. Browser is sending request to first solid. Response coming from third solid. But server doesn't know. Browser doesn't know. That response may be from first solid, it will understand. It doesn't know. Because that is server implicitly forwards. When we have to use this one is, if the task is very big, instead of writing complete code in a one solid, you can make it many solids. Say in core Java, are you writing complete code in the main method? No, you are writing some other methods also, no? Like that. If you want to divide your task into number of modules, then this concept required. Say, I am sending request to which solid? First solid. How many solids executed? 3 solids. Last solid sending response. It does, browser doesn't know. Suppose one task I'll assign to you. You will do something, you will assign to other person. Other person will do something, again other person. At last you will bring. What I'll understand, you completed, I'll understand. But that is completed by many people. Okay, like that. If the task is very big, in that situation, you can do like this. Okay? Note down. The main advantage of solid forwarding is modularity. The main advantage of solid forwarding is modularity. So task, if you want to divide into number of modules, then we use. That concept is called modularity. This program we'll see tomorrow class. The main advantage of solid forwarding is modularity. You'll see continuation tomorrow.